Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be reviewing a movie called Death of a Unicorn. Death of a Unicorn. Now, Death of a Unicorn is branded as a horror movie, and the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that I don't think that it was a horror movie. It's a very comedic film, and it has a lot of comedic elements, and there are some horror elements to it, but they are just not quite enough to call it a horror film. It's kind of like it reminds me of like Django Unchained in a sense. In the final scene of Django Unchained. Also, this review will absolutely have spoilers, and right now I'm about to spoil the ending of Django Unchained. So if you didn't sign up for spoilers, then perhaps don't listen to this part. But so in Django Unchained, at the end, he shoots a bunch of people, but it's not very violent because they go flying off the screen in comedic ways, like they're in a cartoon almost. And in Death of a Unicorn, the deaths are also very comedic. They are short. They don't focus too long on the gore. A lot of the gore is CG. And so, it just doesn't feel like horror gore. It doesn't feel like horror gore. It feels like comedic gore. And there's like one or two jump scares, I guess you could call them, but it's not what I would qualify as enough to make the genre horror. And so I would definitely put this film in the genre of comedy with some gore, some horror elements. But if you're a huge horror fanatic thinking about seeing this horror movie, you might be disappointed with the level of horror that's actually in it. And if you hate horror movies and you wouldn't see this movie because of the horror, you might actually be okay with this movie. And so, what I'm going to do, which I haven't done yet in the other videos, is I'm going to actually look at my phone here to see the plot of the film. And this is so that I don't forget anything, because I want to talk to you guys about the whole film, and it can be a little bit difficult to remember off the top of my head. So, the first part of the film, it says, Elliot Kittner and his teenage daughter, Ridley, are spending a weekend at the estate of Elliot's boss, Odell Leopold, and his family, his wife Belinda, and their son, Shepard. While driving to their destination, Elliot accidentally runs over a unicorn foal with his car. When Ridley touches its horn, she experiences strange cosmic visions, which Elliot abruptly stops after he bludgeons the creature with a tire iron. Now, this sort of intro to the film, you could call it the film's inciting incident. is a little bit interesting. It does sort of propel the plot forward in a way, but at the same time it's not a lock-in. So it's like it hasn't really forced the characters into anything. They still have this decision to make, and they can make any decision they want. They could leave the unicorn on the road and turn around and go home. They could drive to where they're going and tell the people, hey, we hit a unicorn and it's on the road back there. Or they could do what they did in the film, which is load the unicorn into the car, drive it to the place where they are going, and not tell the people that there is a dead unicorn in their car. So there's no lock-in here because they could have really done anything, and I think they tried a little bit to make there be a lock-in. There was a very quick line from Paul Rudd saying something about like if the Rangers or something find it, then they'd be in trouble. I'm not sure exactly. And so I think they tried to make it a little bit more of like a forced thing. And then the other like lock-in force was that he didn't want the family that they were going to visit to find out, because he wanted them to like him and trust him and want to support his business growth venture thing that's going on. So after this, the Kidners arrive at the Leopold's estate with their unicorn hidden in their car. Shortly after their arrival, Ridley discovers that the unicorn's blood has cleaned away the acne on her face, and Elliot's vision has improved and his allergies are gone. The Leopolds eventually discover the unicorn still alive in the car, which is promptly shot by the Leopold's assistant, Shaw. Upon learning that the unicorn has magical healing properties, Odell suggests they experiment with it. Now, this paragraph skips over a lot of different things that happen, but the big one that I want to kind of point out is the lock-in, which is what is the lock-in for these characters, specifically Paul Rudd's character, Elliot, I think, yeah, Elliot. Now, Elliot, his daughter is trying to tell him, even at this point in the film, that they should go. That she's like, something crazy's going on. This doesn't feel right. We should go. And Paul Rudd's lock-in for staying there is essentially greed. He wants to pursue this business venture of some kind. He needs them to sign some type of contract with him in order to get this big business deal to make a lot of money, which is supposedly supposed to help him take care of his daughter. This is really not explained very well in the film, and it's one of the things that I definitely didn't like about the beginning, is it seems that even without this business deal, it seems that Paul Rudd's character, Elliot, has a good job. It seems like he can probably support himself and one daughter on the income of whatever job that he has. And we find out that his wife and the girl's mother has died prior to the beginning of the film, but Paul's character still seems like he could be okay without this deal. There doesn't seem to be enough of a earth-shattering consequence if he doesn't get this financial deal from this family, which makes me feel like his lock-in of wanting to stay in order to complete this deal doesn't have a whole lot of merit. It doesn't make sense, because why would you not kind of support your daughter and handle this clearly insane situation of having hit a unicorn and killed a unicorn, and stuffing it in the back of your car, and having your car that you rented completely totaled, and all of this type of stuff. So I think right from the beginning of the film, Paul Rudd's character should have just left, and I don't feel like their lock-in was strong enough to keep them there. And unfortunately, as the film goes on, they double down on this lock-in of Paul Rudd's character, and Elliot chooses to stay time and time again for essentially greed, but they make it seem like it's not greed, like it's a necessary thing, like he needs this money for something. But that's never really explicitly said in the film as to why he needs this money. And I think that just didn't work for me at all. Now, on the flip side, Ridley's lock-in is much more interesting. She has had an interesting experience with this unicorn. She touched the unicorn horn and had this magical experience and connection with it, and now feels like she's a part of this unicorn and experiencing what this unicorn is going through. And she hasn't had a negative experience with the unicorns either, because she is kind of this pure-hearted maiden, as they refer to her later in the movie. And so her interest in figuring out the unicorns or something like that, I think it makes a little bit more sense. But her actual lock-in is really just supporting her father, is trying to get her father out of a bad situation. She loves her father. She lost her mother earlier, and she doesn't want to lose her father as well and be without a parent. And so her lock-in is trying to convince her stubborn father to leave with her. And I think that that's a stronger lock-in, is caring about her father. I think that's a stronger lock-in for her to stay and not just take the car and leave than Elliot's lock-in. Next, it says a group of scientists working for the Leopolds, led by Dr. Song, successfully create a concoction by grating off some of the unicorn horn, which cures Odell of his cancer. As a result, Odell orders the unicorn to be taken to their laboratory for further testing, wanting to capitalize on its capabilities. Having read the story behind the unicorn tapestries, Ridley argues that the Leopolds should not be messing with the unicorn, but they do not listen to her. While wheeling the unicorn away, the group is ambushed by a larger unicorn who kills Dr. Song. After it escapes into the woods, Odell organizes a hunting party to kill it, with Elliot joining them. So this is definitely when things start to get a little bit more intense, and this is when this sort of rich, privileged, wealthy family finds out that they have the cure for cancer. And that is definitely a lock-in for those characters, because all they care about is money. They want to be wealthy beyond their imagination, wildest dreams, and they now have a way to do it. They have the cure for cancer, and they specifically say reach out to all of the richest people that they know that have cancer, especially people whose public presence has been affected by the fact that they have cancer, and try to sell it to them for an exorbitant amount of money. And so all of those characters feel locked in because they've been a part of this family, and it seems as though they've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and they've been essentially screwing people out of their money for a long time. So this fits all of their characters perfectly and makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense for their son who is not necessarily part of the pharmaceutical industry. He's a little bit more of, he comes across as a little bit more of like a playboy entrepreneur type guy. It would make sense for him to do what he does, which is take different parts of the unicorn and attempt to use it as more of a drug. So he, takes, grinds off bits of the unicorn horn and snorts it like a drug, and I think that matches his character, and he is just trying to, one, have a good time and just be himself. Is very not caring about anything self, while also trying to essentially improve his intelligence or use this drug to somehow gain an advantage over other people, which also matches sort of this wealthy family taking advantage of other people kind of vibe. Continuing with that, it says, meanwhile, Shepard steals a file of the unicorn's graded horn and orders another scientist, Dr. Bhatia, to saw off the unicorn's entire horn. Ridley realizes the unicorn is still alive and attempts to text Elliot to head back. Oh, I forgot to mention that. This is another point in the film where Ridley tries to get her father to return, to leave, to walk away from this situation, and he chooses to go hunt down this other unicorn with Odell, and it just doesn't make sense. It's just out of greed, and I don't see the motivating factor for him to want to do this over being with his own daughter, especially now that he's witnessed somebody die from the unicorns attacking. There is just too much leaning him on the side of his daughter to just get in the car and leave and let the Odells do this. He can scrap the job, keep whatever job he has, find a different thing, and they go on and live their married lives. There's not enough lock-in for him to stay, risk his life, and break trust with his daughter. What does he get out of it? Nothing. He could have just left at that point, and I think that just would have made more sense. So he needed a stronger lock-in to stay and do what he did in the film. So Ridley realizes the unicorn is still alive, or was able to resurrect or heal itself, and attempts to text her dad to tell him that, but he didn't have service, and so those guys get ambushed, and the unicorns kill Odell and Shaw. The survivors learn that the unicorns are the parents, and they decide to try to offer the child that they've had kidnapped the whole movie in order to satisfy the parents, so that they don't continue to attack and kill them. They decide stupidly to keep the horn, so they're not giving back the entire unicorn. They still have the horn. And so when the unicorn parents find out that they don't have their entire baby because they don't have the horn, they are not happy, and they go into the building. They disembowel Belinda, which is probably one of the more gory scenes in the film, and Elliot reveals that to Ridley. They have kind of an emotional bonding where Elliot finally tells Ridley that she was right, and that they should have left. And now Ridley finds out that Elliot actually stole the horn, and so he's actually the one in possession of the horn of the unicorn, which she's not happy about. But then he basically says that he'll sacrifice himself and lead the unicorn away while Ridley can, save herself. But unfortunately, she runs into Shepard, and he's not happy with her because he has found out that from snorting the unicorn horn gratings, he has found out that the unicorns are docile around Ridley because she's pure of heart. And this is the ending of the film, and and this is another strange part for me. Now, the unicorn comes up to Ridley and falls on the ground and, like, falls asleep, which maybe you could say because Ridley's pure of heart and it trusts Ridley, then it also trusts that Shepard is there. But honestly, I feel like the unicorn should have still felt wary about the fact that Shepard was there. And also, at this point, they don't have the horn back. So it's just kind of odd that this unicorn would just lay down and fall asleep with Ridley. And then Shepard immediately, like, starts tying up its legs and stuff, and it just doesn't even realize that, which I thought was odd. And then, the last time we saw Elliot, he was being chased by this murderous unicorn because he stole the horn, and he's been a greedy POS the entire time, in the entire movie. And then he walks the other unicorn back, holding the horn like a carrot, like a, come on, horsey. And I don't understand why Elliot's character did not get brutally slaughtered by this unicorn. I'm not really sure how he was able to bring this unicorn back to where Ridley was. I guess the argument could be that with his acceptance of Ridley and realizing she was right, that he is now also pure of heart, and therefore that the unicorns are docile around him as well. But I think that's a pretty big stretch. I'm not really sure how he gets back. So anyway, he comes back. The other unicorn, who can see the first unicorn getting tied up, also falls asleep upon getting close to Ridley. Which, yeah, I don't really have an explanation for that. And then Elliot gets shot. I don't remember exactly how the unicorns wake up. Yeah, so Shepard, I guess, Shepard thought Elliot was on his side, and then Elliot goes up to, like, shake his hand, but then stabs him, but then Shepard stabs him back, and I think this whole exchange wakes up the unicorns, and then one of the unicorns kicks Shepard across the whole patio and definitely kills him. But then Elliot is also dying, and at this point, again, sort of, I guess at this point you could say that the unicorns want to save Elliot for Ridley, because I don't see why they would save Elliot for Elliot, although they didn't kill Elliot for Elliot, and that's also a weird one that I'm not fully grasping, and I'm not sure if that's because of anything that Elliot did, or if it's just the fact that Ridley clearly loves him and wants him to live, enjoys his company, you know. And so then they're able to resurrect their own unicorn baby and Elliot at the same time. Elliot gets to have the same vision that Ridley had, and all is well and right in the world until the butler guy comes back and shows the police a house full of murdered people, and Ridley and Elliot are there trying to say, yo, it was the unicorns. But I like the end of the movie that they show that the unicorns come back and try to protect Ridley and Elliot. And so, honestly, for as much of the things that I've said in this review that didn't make sense to me and that were a little bit of a struggle to suspend my disbelief to continue enjoying the film, it was a very entertaining film. It was a very funny film. I really enjoyed the humor. It made me roll my eyes in a good way a lot throughout the film, where I'm just like, this is so ridiculous, like, why? But it was with a smile on my face, you know. Yes, I really just enjoyed watching the film, and I wish a movie like this, I feel like, doesn't need a perfect story and perfect stuff. But I do wish that the lock-in had just been a little bit better for Elliot. If they had just maybe had a little bit more backstory, saying that he lost his job or he was going bankrupt or something, and that this deal was absolutely mandatory for him to get, or they were going to lose their house and be homeless. And if they just raised the stakes a little bit on why he needed this deal to go through, then his greediness becomes less greedy and more necessity. And then that's more of a lock-in that I could actually buy and believe. But as it was, I don't think it had that, and it made it really hard to believe that his character would continue progressing through the story as he did. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my review of Death of a Unicorn. I appreciate all the views and likes and comments that you guys have been given on the recent videos. In case it was not super clear, this video was actually recorded using a different microphone than I've used for the other videos. So if you liked this video better, the sound, let me know. If you liked this video less, if you thought that the sound is worse, also let me know. That way I can decide which microphone setup I'm going to use going forward for future videos. Thank you again so much, and I'll see you in the next one.